All right, good evening, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Prince Hall Think Tank, which is a monthly discussion where we talk about various events in Prince Hall history. Tonight's show is about Sons of Liberty, uh, Prince Hall Masonry's the Defenders of the Craft, where we're going to be talking about the history and evolution of Prince Hall affiliated military lodges. I'm your host for tonight. My name is Dave Gillum. I'm a past master of Mount Pisgah Lodge number 53, where Johnny R. Williams serves worshipful master. And I also had the pleasure of serving as the grand historian for the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Georgia, while the Honorable Bruce A. James serves as our Most Worshipful Grand Master. For the disclaimer, the views and opinions that are expressed by us tonight in no way reflect upon the views and opinions of the Grand Lodges in which we hold membership. So now we're going to get to the other panelists, and we apologize for advance. Brother Ken Collins couldn't be with us tonight, and also District Deputy Grand Master Sean Taylor will not be able to be with us tonight due to some unforeseen circumstances. So next we're going to get to our panelists, and we're going to have up Brother James Morgan.
Good evening, everybody. My name is James R. Morgan III. I am currently serving as Worshipful Master of Corinthian Lodge number 18, as well as the Worshipful Associate Grand Historian. I do all that under the auspices of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the District of Columbia, with the Honorable Norman L. Campbell is our Grand Master. I'm very, very happy to be here with everybody. Hope everybody's enjoying their summer months and everything like that. And I'm just really excited to learn a little bit tonight. I'm a little out of my element tonight with the military life topic, but I'm looking forward to a learning opportunity. So happy to be here once again.
All right, thank you for that, Brother Morgan. Next one I have Brother Preston Collins.
Once again, greetings everyone. My name is Preston Collins Jr. I'm the sitting worshipful master of Toussaint Lodge number 19, located here in Hamilton, Ohio, working under the auspices of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Ohio, where the Honorable Carl Williams is my Grand Master. Glad to be here with everybody again. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, but we'll get into all that later. Once again, welcome everybody.
For that, Brother Collins. Next, we're going to have our guest for the night, Brother Michael Williams, is going to introduce himself.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Past Master Michael D. Williams out of House of Harmony Military Lodge number 56, Okinawa, Japan, where our current worshipful master is Rob Parker. We fall under the jurisdiction of Oklahoma, where Dr. Derry Vaughn is our Grand Master. Good evening. Thanks for having me on your show.
All right, thank you for that, Brother Williams. All right, for the purpose of tonight's show, we want to talk about the history and evolution of Prince Hall affiliated military lodges. Prince Hall Masonry has always had a deep history of not only having abolitionists, legislators, congressmen, as you've seen in previous episodes, but we also have a strong connection to the military itself. So when we started to analyze the history and evolution of these lodges, we started to look at the first Prince Hall affiliated military lodges actually appeared during the Civil War. Now, if you have this book, a lot of my research has been done out of Black Square and Compass, which is written by Joseph Walks. And Joseph Walks talks about the early Prince Hall affiliated military lodges. And the first one, it's a cloud of mystery behind where this lodge actually originated, according to Walks, and if I'm reading this correctly. And he said the first lodge appears, nobody really knows where it came from, and then he later believes this lodge became Hayden Lodge number 8 in South Carolina. That lodge eventually joins in and helps form what is now known as the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of South Carolina. But the first one that they could really establish, they knew where it came from, was Phoenix Lodge number 1, which was chartered in 1864, which was chartered by was now the Prince Hall Grand Lodge in New York, and it was attached to the 54th Infantry Regiment, which was the first infantry regiment for African Americans in the Union Army. So this was one of the first concrete lodges that we see being established during the Civil War. After the Civil War, with the formation of what we now know as the Buffalo Soldiers in the famous 9th and 10th Cavalry, along with the 24th and 25th Infantry Regiments, we saw the expansion of Prince Hall Masonry when it came to the military. So as these units started to travel, different Grand Lodges became involved with helping charter lodges that would travel with these military units. Some of these lodges include Joppa Lodge number 50. And if you see any Buffalo Soldiers picture, such as this one, which is on the cover of the Flaxes, you're going to see Joppa Lodge number 50. And according to Walks, this is one of the only lodges that actually had pictures with them in full regalia. Some of these other lodges include one of my personal favorites, which was Tyree Military Lodge number 143, which was chartered by now known as the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Missouri. Missouri in the early years, became one of the forerunners in charter military lodges. They had numerous lodges all over the place. And this lodge was important to me because Tyree Military Lodge was attached to the 25th Infantry Regiment, and the 25th Infantry Regiment was stationed at Fort Benning. And what I have here is the city directory for the city of Columbus, the Black City Directory for the city of Columbus in 1926. And in it, they include a lot of fraternal organizations. And one of those organizations that is mentioned, that is operating in the city of Columbus in 1926, if you can see it, is Tyree Military Lodge. So this lodge was a functioning entity in the city. And checking my lodge records along with the lodge records of Lewis Hayden Lodge number 6, not only did Mount Pisgah number 53 and Lewis Hayden interact with this lodge, that lodge also came and interacted with us. They gave lectures. We helped each other out with degree work. So this lodge, full of soldiers that was traveling all over the United States, we got to see actual records of them operating right here in the Fort Masonic District. And now in today's time, we see Grand Lodges such as the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Washington, Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Oklahoma, who have established lodges in Korea, Germany, Italy, Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, and so the military lodges have continued to expand. And a lot of those lodges, as you mentioned, located in Afghanistan, are in an active combat zone. So next, we're going to get into what is the difference? What does it feel like being in a Prince Hall affiliated military lodge? And now we're going to turn over to Brother Preston Collins.
Thanks for that, Brother Gillon, for that information. I want to start out by saying, first and foremost, on January 4th, 2001, myself, along with 4 other gentlemen, were raised to the sublime degree of a Master Mason in I.H. Claiborne Military Lodge number 61, under the auspices of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Oklahoma, which was the lodge was located on Camp Red Cloud in South Korea. So that's why, first and foremost, is one of the more near and dear to my heart ones, because I was raised in a military lodge so many years ago. But to speak on the differences, at least from what I can remember, because it's been almost 20 years ago for me, but one of the biggest differences was the camaraderie, in my opinion. Now, I don't say that to say that the brothers here in the States, in the continental United States, they don't fellowship, or there's not any brotherly love between them or anything like that, but it's kind of different in a military lodge overseas, because it's more like you have a double bond with those brothers, because these are your Masonic brothers, but they're also your brothers in arms. Your worshipful master could be the man next to you in the foxhole when that alarm goes off, or the Tyler outside could be the guy that could be the medic that's coming to patch you up if you go down on the battlefield, or that type. The brothers in the overseas military lodges seem to have more of thicker bond than what you generally find here in the States. Another big striking difference from what I can remember was attendance and participation. Like when it comes to lodge meetings and stuff. Like I jokingly tell brothers all the time that a regular stated communication for a lodge in Korea when I was there would look like a district session here in the States, because that's how many brothers would be there. It was nothing to walk into a regular monthly meeting of a lodge and see hundreds in there sitting in the craft. It's a beautiful thing. You know, and part of that is because, especially in your combat zones like Afghanistan and all of that, the only thing you have outside of the military is your Masonic lodge. So form a bigger bond between the brothers, because, you know, I know like when I was in Korea, if I wasn't at work or I wasn't in the field or I wasn't doing something with my unit, I was doing something Masonic related. So, you know, not only did it help idle time to go that would get in trouble. You know, my grandmother used to always say that idle mind is the devil's playground, you know. But for me, those were the two biggest differences, were the camaraderie and the participation when you look between the two of them. Now, I never got a chance to serve as a principal officer in a military lodge. I held the office of secretary. I was elected secretary of my mother lodge the day that I got raised. I'm sorry, let me rewind a little bit. That brings me to another point. That's something else that's different about your military lodges overseas, is the high turnaround rate when it comes to the brothers, because especially in places like Korea, for most people, Korea is a one-year tour. Out of that 1 year, you maybe have 10 months where you can actively work in masonry, because you'll be spending a month actively in processing, and you'll spend actively a month clearing your flight to come back to the States. So with that being said, that was how I was elected secretary of my mother lodge the day that I got raised as a master mason, was because the membership was dwindling, because most of the members were slated to return back to the continental U.S. So I'm not going to take up too much more of our time, of your time. I'm really interested in hearing what Brother Williams has to say. So those are really my thoughts on the differences between your military lodges overseas and your civilian lodges here in the States.
All right. Thank you for that, Brother Collins. And for all the viewers, feel free to go to the event page for this show, to the Prince Hall Think Tank group, or the Prince Hall Think Tank Facebook page, and post your questions. And at the end of the show, we're going to address as many of those questions as possible. Next, we're going to have Brother Williams. He's going to explain, who he is, his military career, and the ins and outs. What it's like to be in a Prince Hall affiliated military lodge.
Good evening again, brothers. Thank you for having me once again. Just a caveat on what Brother Preston Collins said. Military lodges, is a beautiful thing because of the camaraderie. I've been in and out of military lodges and civilian lodges for about 18 years. I started out being raised in my mother lodge, where my father and my grandfather are still members, active members. And I go back and forth between military and civilian lodges. Currently, I'm still attached to my military lodge, House Harmony number 56, out of Okinawa, Japan. I've visited many lodges in Kuwait, Afghanistan, also in Iraq, while deployed. And it's just a bond, just like Brother Collins said, that you just can't break, because 1 minute you're there with that person in a lodge, then the next minute you might be on a convoy, you might be on the road with them. They may be your boss, but in a lodge there is no ranks. They may be your boss, or you may be their boss. But at the end of the day, we know we got a mission, and that mission takes priority when we go to work. But at the same time, when we go to lodge, we have lodge, and we have lodge missions, and we treat them both the same, but indifferent at the same time. Um, Throughout my military service, I've been in going on 19 and some change now, almost 20 years, CW4. For me, it's kind of different because I'm one of the few officers that actually attend lodges. We have many officers in the military that go to lodge or become Masons, but because of their schedules, they're always busy. They're not able to attend as many meetings as I had, especially somebody like me being able to go in and become a worship master and be an active officer in the military at the same time. It was difficult, but at the same time, fun and eventful. For the most part, being in the military and being a Mason is actually, let me go back a little bit. When I first became a Mason, I was introduced to it by my father, but was really off of it until I got to my first duty station, which is Fort Hood, Texas, and that's my current duty station. I was seeing all these brothers. At the time, I didn't know what they were, but I noticed all the emblems on their cars, and everybody was always nice. The people that I always ran into, they was nice brothers, and they were all Masons. So I called my dad up one day. I was like, "Hey, Dad, what's going on? I see all these emblems on these cars, and I want to know what it's about." He said, "Well, boy, come home, and when you come home, I'm gonna show you what it's about, and you can become a Mason when you come home." So I took 30 days of leave, and some people may call it a pot shot or a fast way through, but I did all 3 degrees in 1 month, and boy, my brain was tired. Yes. Um, Other than that, that's pretty much my story. Yeah, any questions y'all got, just shoot them. I'm more of a question and answer type person. You shoot me a question, I answer it.
Dave, I think you muted, Brother
Yeah,
Gillan.
yeah. Thank you for that, Brother Williams. All right, next we're gonna have before we get to the question, go. We got tons for you, Brother Williams. I'm gonna have Brother Morgan. He's gonna talk about the military lodge that they have in D.C. and then he's gonna go into his set of questions.
Okay. Well, first of all, my brother, welcome to the Prince Hall Think Tank. We call this the Lion's Den. So we're happy to have you here. Um, just to give some background for me, like as I said earlier, I'm not a military person. I'm not a veteran or anything like that. I didn't come from, even though both my grandfathers served in the military. Well, one of them is a Mason, but he wasn't in the military lodge. But I didn't really come from a military background. You know what I mean? And uh, I started to learn more about the military and have a better appreciation for the testimony, I guess you would say, of our brothers and sisters in arms and what have you, by coming here to Washington, D.C., joining my jurisdiction. And as was mentioned, we do have a military lodge here, Nathaniel M. Adams Jr. Military Lodge number 29. But they are, even though they're a military lodge, they're stateside. They're not overseas or anything like that. And so they're it's kind of interesting to me because they're transitory a little bit, but not as transitory as I imagine lodges overseas might be. But they're a great group of brothers, man. And actually, their first elected worshipful master, worshipful Marcus James, is somebody who I consider a near and dear friend and Masonic mentor as well. That lodge was actually established in 1990, was given a dispensation in 1994, and I believe they received their charter in 95. They were actually named for the sitting Grand Master at that time, none other than Colonel Nathaniel Matthew Adams Jr., who is today one of our senior most worshipful past Grand Masters here in the District of Columbia. I had the opportunity, and it's kind of funny, and this is just one of those kind of tidbits I give to people. Regardless if you're military or not, talk to your elders, talk to those past masters and past Grand Masters, whatever, because you never know what you're gonna get. And the first time I really had a conversation with past Grand Master Adams, we were talking about a whole bunch of things, man, and just his thoughts and stuff. And then he got on to talking about the military lodge, and how he was like, yeah, contrary to popular belief, Brother Morgan, I did not name the military lodge. they were going to name it something else, and then I went to go give them the chart, and they said, no, Grandmaster, we want to name it after you because you believed in us. And I didn't understand what he meant by that. But as I would come to find out, there had been at least about maybe two other, and maybe even more, but there have been at least two other attempts to start military lodges or to have military lodges chartered under the District of Columbia, and for whatever reason, they weren't granted that permission until the 1990s, which I know, if you really think about it, that seems kind of funny, being Washington, D.C., and we only had a military lodge for about 20 years now. So I think that's kind of interesting. Also, another way that I've kind of learned about military lodges myself is the master of my lodge right before me, past master Cedric Myers. He himself it's actually a military Mason, and part of the reason why I became worshipful master when I did was because he ended up having to go to another duty station or something like that, and it was this whole thing. But I learned a lot from him as well, because most of his military career had been spent like yourself, overseas, traveling, bouncing around lodges, and that kind of actually leads me into my question, because and he and I would talk about it all the time because I just thought it was so fascinating. Because I've heard other brothers mention this too who were military, which is that to some, and maybe I don't want to speak for you, brother Michael, but to some, I've heard that there's a sense of discrimination for military Masons when they come back stateside, and you come back and you may be a past master, or you may have served in multiple lodges in different jurisdictions and bounced around a bit or whatever, and then you come back stateside and you come to a lodge, and you meet brothers like myself, and they're looking at you kind of crazy, or they're not as willing to put you in an elected seat or what have you. And I've heard I've heard these things, and I kind of found it hard to believe because I hadn't experienced it, but I've heard it from several different brothers, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. Like, where do you think that comes from? Is it just a lack of understanding, or do you think it's envy, or what? What do you, or do you think that even exists? Have you experienced that yourself at all?
Well, for me, I have not really personally experienced it. However, I've heard the stories, and I know many brothers that's happened to. Like, for example, where I'm at in Texas now, I just got a phone call yesterday in regards to something very similar. You get brothers out of military lodge. They show up to a new location, and they trying to meet with brothers. They try to go to lodge, and then they show their dues cards, say who they are, where they come from, and then they're still kind of isolated and say, yeah, well, you can come in my lodge, but a lot of them don't really, well, I won't say a lot of them, but in this particular situation, this brother was kind of excluded because he was coming from overseas, and he wasn't a member of the lodge, and only thing they asked him, if you gonna demit, if you not, have a nice day. Then heard another story about 6 or 7 months ago. Same thing down in Fort Bliss. You got brothers from Washington jurisdiction that go down to Fort Bliss, Texas, and well, you can't hold a seat here if you demit in. You get kind of like isolated. But for me, what I've heard and what I've seen, they call some of us military Masons popcorn Masons because we show up, then we pop full colonel. You got somebody who's a past potentate at the age of 27 and a past master at the age of 24, or held every seat in Masonry by the time they're 30. And then they show up stateside, and brothers looking at them like, hey, I've been in the line for 10 years and I ain't held all of them seats, and, get isolated. Yes, there is discrimination. I've seen it in all different shapes and forms, and it also has something to do with race. I got plenty of brothers that I've either worked with or I've raised myself that were Puerto Rican, white, Hispanic, Filipino even. And these brothers, they come back to the States, and they go to a Prince Hall lodge, and they get questioned. Are you sure you Prince Hall? Are you sure you Prince Hall? You Filipino? You a Prince Hall Mason? Or you white? You sure you Prince Hall? This, stuff like that. But yes, it's there.
And on that note, and actually I want to apologize to you. I know I look crazy when you said you were raised, you had all 3 degrees in 1 month. 'Cause I was just like, whoa, I wasn't. If you had said that from your military experience, I was like ready for that. When you said that was something that happened back here, I was like, whoa, like that was just everybody has their own journey, and I hate hearing those kind of stories. You know what I mean? Because like and like for instance in Nathaniel Adams Lodge, if you go there, just like how you said, they have brothers of Latino heritage, Caucasian, all over the place, and they're Prince Hall brothers. And I just think it's a shame that that prior to the Prince Hall think tank, that people weren't getting educated on these kind of things, because I think part of it is just people's ignorance. You know what I mean? Of understanding what that military life is kind of like. Something else that I kind of think is interesting about the military lodges, and I would love to learn more, to know more about, because you mentioned visiting lodges. I know that, or at least I've heard that there are some lodges that, for instance, like I think it's in the Far East, that there are some jurisdictions like Oklahoma, Washington, Maryland, where you may have some overlap. And I hear that, and I've heard a lot about, not only the camaraderie just within those individual military lodge, but being able to visit and travel, like in Germany and different places. With that, I know, actually, according to, here's another shameless plug, Prince Hall's Mission, written by Joseph Walks, a great book that I'm actually currently reading. The first military lodge that was known by Harry A. Williamson was Jewel of the Orient Lodge in Yokohama, Japan, established by the jurisdiction of Washington State. So can you talk a little bit about those like interjurisdictional visits and connections, and what's that kind of like? And is it easier, like if you're a military Mason on duty, is it easier for you to go and travel and visit a lodge on base, or do you still get some of those? Does the Grand Lodge kind of? Do you think you're a little more free from the Grand Lodge, or is the Grand Lodge a little more strict on you guys, or what's been your experience with that?
Well, my experience with that, it pretty much it's kind of like it goes hand in foot. You go to any location. I've been in the Far East, for example, Japan and Korea, and if you run into Oklahoma Lodge, best believe it's a Washington Lodge, not too far around. And one of you guys did an interview with Worship Master Eisen. Oh, well, let me rephrase that. Special District Deputy Eisenberg. I met him through a military lodge. You got Tyrone Watson. I met these guys all through military lodge. I'm being Oklahoma, and these guys were Washington. Doors was always open. We never really had any issues. These guys would come visit our lodge. We go visit their lodge, and it was always camaraderie. As far as the grandmasters, we've never had any issues with the grandmasters say, hey, you can't visit a lodge from Washington, and you can't visit a lodge from Oklahoma. But at the same time, we've done joint degree works, we've done joint form raises, we've also put a plug into the shrine again, but when it comes to the shrine, it's only one temple most of the time when you go overseas. So you got Oklahoma jurisdiction, Washington jurisdiction, and the same shrine. And in Korea, you got Texas too. So you got Texas, Oklahoma, and Washington brothers all in the same shrine. So the overlap is there, but it's not like it's any beef or nothing. It's just love.
That's I want to piggyback on that. One thing that I do remember very vividly from when I was in Korea was you had, like, in the 2nd Infantry Division area, or what was known as area, we had certain lodges that were your larger lodges in Korea. And when you think about it off of the top of the head, you had Billy G. Miller Lodge number 43 out of Oklahoma jurisdiction, and you had Sprig of Acacia Lodge number 91 out of Washington jurisdiction. And I've done work with both of those. Those two lodges, at least half of the members of Billy G. Miller, versa. There weren't very many stipulations put on traveling in between the represented Grand Lodges over there. So it was nothing to go to an Oklahoma meeting and see all of the Washington Masons or all of the brothers from Alvin B. Amos Lodge under Texas jurisdiction, or you go to a meeting at Alvin B. Amos Lodge and you see all of the Oklahoma brothers there. It was like I stated before, all we really had was military and masonry. So if we weren't at work doing something specifically military related, we were out either there was some type of Masonic meeting. There was community service that we were doing. A lot of people don't realize that military lodges overseas do a lot of community service in the countries that they're located in.
That's good stuff. Thank you for that, for sure. I got two more questions. I'm gonna include them. I'm just trying to merge them into one. Did we lose brother Collins? Is he still there? Okay.
I'm still here, James. I'm still
Okay.
here.
Yeah, I just have two more questions for you guys, and I'm gonna I guess give the floor back. But I'm gonna include them as one, I guess. The first part of the question is based on my reading and some of the things I've heard, is that there have been issues, and I don't know if this is still prevalent or not, but there have been issues in the past because of the, I guess, issues of recognition and racial divide or what have you have kind of spilled over in some places when it comes to military lodges. One book I was reading was talking about how, and I've even heard this from brothers who I know even today, where you might have certain military commanders who are hesitant to allow a Masonic lodge on a base at all, whether it's Prince Hall or not, because of the stigma of, well, the Masons are, some lodges don't admit blacks, some lodges don't admit white. The profane world doesn't understand the whole dynamic of it. So some places it's like, that either they don't want us there at all in terms of Masonic lodges, period, or sometimes the Prince Hall lodges, if we're coming there second, they're hesitant because they say, well, we already have a military lodge here, and then there's issues of getting proper facilities or what have you. So I'm hoping that somebody can talk about that. And then the flip side of that question is also this: is what experiences have you all had, if any, as a military Mason, with a Grand Lodge in a country like, let's say, Korea or Japan or Germany or what have you? What a relationship, if any, have you ever been able to participate in a visit to one of those lodges overseas, and or what's their perception of Prince Hall Masonry? Can you guys talk about those two things a little bit?
Well, as far as the commanders and the bases, it really depends on the location. My lodge, House of Harmony, we had something where it wasn't about being a Mason or Prince Hall Freemasonry. It was about Masonry in general. You had a sergeant major or command sergeant major in the Marine Corps who wanted to use the facilities for something else, and it was a free building that we had. We ended up having to pop smoke up out the building because they wanted to use it for their means only. Tried to get other buildings on that location, and it didn't happen. So we ended up moving from a Marine Corps base into an Air Force base. And I believe my brothers are still there doing work on that same Air Force base in the same location. As far as
I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off. I've also heard stuff about, like, some commanders have issues because, like, if they can't go to the meetings, then they don't want it. Is that something common too?
Yeah, that happened before too. They tried to bogart a meeting. They wanted to know what was going on in there, and we had to shut down the lodge because actually it wasn't my lodge that was having the meeting at the time. It was the Washington Jurisdiction Lodge. They tried to go in, and they had to shut down the meeting until those post commanders and everybody left. Then that was when the issues first started. Then we ended up having to move buildings and do things like that and find a different home to house the meetings. Eventually, Washington, they got permission from the Grand Lodge of Japan to move off base and perform business off base. Oklahoma was a different scenario. I don't know all the details, what's going on with Oklahoma and the Grand Lodge of Japan, if there's still an issue. But back in, we couldn't really do anything off base as far as being Oklahoma jurisdiction, whereas Washington could. But on the flip side, when before I demitted back into Oklahoma, being a visiting brother with my Missouri dues card, I can go to Washington and I can go to the Grand Lodge of Japan because it was recognition, mutual recognition between those lodges. But that's one of the things about being a recognized lodge in one location, then you demit to another lodge or military lodge that may not be recognized. by a Grand Lodge, you have issues there. As far as me in Missouri, pretty much Missouri, I love my home, and you can go anywhere, almost anywhere in the world, and you show a Prince Hall, Missouri dues card, and brothers will accept you. And you just have your grandmaster or your grand staff talk to their grand staff, and you can go in. But as far as other jurisdictions that I've been affiliated with, I've run into some issues, but not major ones. But sometimes just like you said, lack of understanding. And getting back to the commander thing, whether it be a Prince Hall Mason or quote unquote mainstream Mason, I've had commanders who were mainstream Masons, and it was no issue with Prince Hall Masons. We've even had generals that are mainstream Masons that look out for Prince Hall brothers, and there's always a rumor that in the military lodge people get promoted because being a Mason and in the military. That's not true. I just want to squash that rumor before that question comes up. We get promoted on our merits and our real work.
Man, I'm looking at my fax machine. Preston just sent me a application to sign up, man.
Yeah, but I heard that question so many times. As soon as people find out I'm a Mason, then I'm a warrant officer. Oh, you use your Mason connection to get promoted? No, I didn't. No, I worked hard for it.
Well, thank you for that, Brother Gillum. I'll turn it back over to you so we can move forward. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for that. And to share my experience with you all, I actually became a Mason after I got out of the military. And my lodge, even though we're not a military lodge, we're about 99% either active duty or prior service. So it still does have that military feel. And a month after I got raised, I actually went TDY to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And the lodge I was directed to go visit was Warfield Lodge number 44 in Clarksville. And that lodge, it was the exact same scenario. That was either primarily active duty or prior service. So the camaraderie was already there, and those brothers took me in just like I was a member of that lodge. And I didn't know. It didn't seem anything different. Even when I went back to my own lodge, it still felt like I was still visiting Warfield number 44 because it was the exact same. And because of my job, I traveled to lodges all over the world. One of my favorite lodges was Cornerstone Military Lodge out of Baumholder, Germany. I always had a great time anytime I visited that lodge. I think King Solomon Lodge is under Washington jurisdiction is there in Baumholder as well. Had some great times with them also. But one of the experiences that kind of set it apart for me when it came to military lodges, because it's one thing to visit and be a part of, in my opinion, to be part of a military lodge in Korea or Japan or Italy. But when you get into the combat zone, it kind of shifts to something else. And back in 2013, I was deployed to Afghanistan, and I reached out to Alpha Military Lodge there in Bagram Air Force Base, and one of the first brothers that contacted me was Brother Michael Gaskins. And for everything he did for me, he will always be my friend and my brother until I'm in the grave. But that lodge immediately took me in, and if you've ever been to Bagram, Afghanistan, you know what I'm talking about. When you fellowship with Alpha Military Lodge, they treat you like your family. I met some great brothers who will always be my brothers from to the end of time. I can't name too many names because I got a bad memory, but Past Master Kuntz, Past Master T.A. Williams, Past Master Ronald Brooks, it was always fellowshipping, it was always learning, and the camaraderie was something else that you're not going to experience anywhere. And if you looked at on my Facebook page, I just changed my background picture my cover picture to two brothers that were actually killed in combat in 2013. And that's something else that's kind of different when you're dealing with military lodges versus civilian lodges. Here we may have unexpected deaths here and there, or you may have an older member pass. But in those military lodges, you could have, and especially the ones in combat, you could have brothers killed instantly. I mean, it could happen. That time, Brother Johnson and Brother Lawson, their death was obviously very unexpected. It's like one day we're sitting around talking, shooting the breeze. The next day they were gone. And the worshipful master at that time was worshipful master, well now past master Eugene Miles. And I've done burials. I think brother, I'm pretty sure all of us have done military funerals, but I did not have the strength in me to do what I seen past Master Miles do, because you're dealing with a whole different level of grief when you're talking about an active duty soldier getting killed in combat and having to maintain the lodge and keep everybody's heads together because the lodge still has to operate. So when you're dealing with combat Prince Hall affiliated lodges in the combat zone, you're talking about a whole different experience. And the picture that you probably seen going around Facebook with all the brothers in full gear, that's Alpha Military Lodge. And talking with their deputy, he said the current lodges that are operating in Afghanistan right now are Alpha Military Lodge number 195, Omega Lodge 196, Widow Sun Lodge number 202, which is down in Kandahar, Qatar Military Lodge. It's outside of Afghanistan now. So you have Qatar Military Lodge, Mount Moriah Lodge was in Dubai, and Middle Chamber Lodge. And there were 3 that's going to be activated, I believe, next year, which is Ricky Jones Military Lodge, Love Walk number 232, and Kabul Lodge number 201. So we have quite a few lodges that are still in an active combat zone, and we still have our soldiers that's over there that's fighting for our country and still be able to experience Masonry at the same time. So next, I've been running my mouth for an extremely long amount of time, and I believe we're going to go ahead and take some questions from the group.
Very cool. Is there while you're selecting those? Is there a equal amount of mainstream military lodges as well?
Well, as far as mainstream military lodges, you have mainstream brothers, but you don't see too many mainstream military lodges. But 9 times out of 10, the association and affiliation, well, I won't say affiliation, but the camaraderie is still felt if there's mutual recognition between their lodges and whatever lodge you belong to, Prince Hall Military Lodge, they'll come out and they'll associate with you. I witnessed that in Kuwait this last year, being able to fellowship with some mainstream brothers. Washington jurisdiction, they have a lot going on with the mainstream Washington brothers. It's a lot of cross communication, cross lodge meetings, things like that. I know a lot of jurisdictions are coming on board with it and with the intervisitation, but I see it more prevalent with Washington.
I will say that in my experience, I know that there's been more, but I can only think of one off the top of my head, military lodge from a state Grand Lodge, and I forget the name of the lodge, but I know it was under the Grand Lodge of Nebraska, and they opened a lodge. I want to say it was in Afghanistan some years ago, but other than that, like, I was never even aware that state Grand Lodges did military lodges overseas until I saw where they opened that lodge up in Afghanistan. It used to be where it was almost an understatement. Hey, if you mentioned a military lodge overseas, people automatically knew you were talking about a Prince Hall affiliated lodge.
Yeah, the craziest thing in the world about my Masonic career that I've been saving for this episode is that I'm actually an honorary member of Freedom Military Lodge number 1775, which is the mainstream Grand Lodge of DC's military lodge. And when I got the honorary membership, because I'm really good friends with a lot of brothers there and done some work, with them for their education and whatnot, I was shocked that I got the membership. Cause I was like, I'm not in the military, so I guess technically, am I down? Am I a military Mason too? No, okay.
All right. With our first question, has anyone seen that some high-ranking officers, which including first sergeants, shy away from becoming a Mason, becoming a Mason due to conflict, meaning that they want to become a Mason, but they were hesitant because of the military.
I've seen it happen before. I've seen where you have higher ranking personnel, both enlisted and officers, shy away from it, who at one point in time wanted to put in petitions, and one of their main reasons for not doing it was people thinking that you garner promotions and accolades in the military by being a Mason as opposed to your own hard work. But also on the flip side of that coin, I've seen brothers who were already Masons happen to be captains and first sergeants and majors and lieutenant colonels who decided that while they were overseas, they would step away from the craft and just didn't affiliate with any lodges at all because of that same reason. Two of the biggest things that you would consider, I guess, stigmas that go along with military lodges overseas is, number one, what we already discussed about people think that you gain rank faster, you gain awards faster in the military. People think that if you go through a military lodge, you're going to be severely hazed. Neither one of those are true. Neither one of those are true. That's all I got to say about that.
To caveat on what Brother Preston just said, Brother Collins said, yeah, I've seen it where you got a first sergeant, you got a commander who they are Masons, but while they are in that capacity of being a first sergeant or commander, they don't attend meetings. However, they're paying their dues. You got majors and lieutenant colonels, just as he said. We had a couple of them go through while we were deployed. This previous deployment in Kuwait. I know brothers that were lieutenant colonels and majors getting raised in Afghanistan through military lodges. But then when they got back stateside, they kind of shied away, and they're still active members, active by paying their dues, but due to schedules and other things and military moves, they tend to just pay dues and move on, not like while we're deployed, when you got nothing else to do but either masonry or think about the deployment. As far as, like you said, they think it's that stigma that you got a first sergeant commander who's going to get you out of Article 15, which basically is a Uniform Code of Military Justice, or like court or trial. You're going to get out of being in trouble if your first sergeant commander is a Mason and you're a Mason. So I see why commanders and first sergeant tend to pull back from working in the lodge and doing things when they're in that capacity. But at the same time, I've seen first sergeants and commanders both be active in the lodge and be active first sergeants and commanders, and they don't hold no punches. When you're a brother and you mess up, you get the same punishment as the other soldier. That's all I got to say.
To piggyback off of that, Brother Williams, I've actually seen it where some commanders and or first sergeants who happen to be brothers came down with stricter punishment on brothers because they tell them, you know what the tenets of Freemasonry are, and if you were following them, then you wouldn't be standing in front of me for this non-judicial punishment right now.
Wow.
All right, next question. Yeah, and that's definitely, I've definitely heard those stories as well. That you got some first sergeants, sergeant majors, whatever, they will lighten to you if they find out that you are Prince Hall Mason and you're out getting DUIs or doing all kind of other crazy stuff.
Wow. And and like I said, man, that's just one of those differences that, it's like your whole life is your job, is your life, and that's just one of those differences, I guess. Wow.
Well, I'll just tell you one of my experiences where I actually had a brother arrested in my job. He came in one of my facilities and he took some, I work in ammunition. He went in one of my bunkers and he took some ammunition for a range to train with for his soldiers. He didn't even ask me. He just went in my pocket. It's like stealing, going taking money out of my wallet, then looking me in my face and say, "Hey, we supposed to be brothers. We supposed to look out for each other." I had him arrested. This was back in 2012, and my command, they was like, "Hey, why'd you do it?" He's a captain, and I'm just like, "Hey, he went in my pocket, and he stole from me, and he was a brother." Then this same brother turned around and used that with the company commander. In Japan, we had this thing where we have curfew because of all the incidents that were going on. He violated curfew, and then he went to the commander, who's also a brother, and say, "Hey, man, we brothers. Why don't you look out for me?" He says, "Nah, man, I can't. If I look out for you, and I don't look out for a soldier, and I got to punish this soldier, I got to punish you the exact same way I punished this soldier." And he got hit up by me and the commander. And next you know, he's in front of the general, and he's getting something called a GOMAR, General Officer Memorandum of Record. And basically, it was a career ender for him. I felt sorry for him, but at the same time, he used being a Mason to get at me and a different brother for his own means and gains.
Yeah. And next question. This is something I know we've all experienced. We've all seen over the years. It said, can anyone provide an answer as to why some military lodges go dark? It said we had two from Illinois that went dark several years ago.
The two biggest things I would think would be the location of that lodge and the turnaround rate for not just Masons but service members in that area in general. Like, I'm pretty sure that there are quite a few. As a matter of fact, I know that there are quite a few military lodges that were located in Korea that have shut down because of the downsizing of forces that we have. So when you combine that with, as I stated before, Korea being, for the most part, a one-year tour, and out of that 1 year, you only got 10 months where you can actually practice masonry. All of that plays a role in those lodges going dark. And then more than anything is and the lack of bringing in new members. That's the quickest way to make any lodge go dark, not just a military lodge overseas.
You know something, Preston? You struck something when you said location, because I'm wondering now, because it brought back to a conversation I had actually with my current grandmaster, and it was just it's just a side conversation, and I had mentioned that I had wondered why my jurisdiction in Washington D.C. never really got into the business of military lodges, even going back like as I go through Grand Lodge minutes, because we had been requested several times. And he mentioned something about not having jurisdictional rights, and I'm like, well, if you don't have a Prince Hall Grand Lodge in an area, then what's the problem? Is there a geography, like what's the geography like in terms of, I know like Maryland, Washington, Oklahoma, those are the big players on the military stage. Do they have is there only Maryland lodges in this area? Is it just a tradition? Is it an unwritten thing? Is there an agreement that you know of, or let's say if I was a Grandmaster of DC tomorrow, which ain't gonna happen, but if I wanted to get in the military lodge game, would there be problems with that, or I'm just asking.
Well, from my experience, what I've noticed, it's not really about Prince Hall jurisdiction, one Prince Hall jurisdiction taking precedence over another. It's all about location, and if it's a sovereign territory. And sovereign territory meaning that there is no Masonic location or Masonic lodge in that area. For example, Afghanistan versus Japan, where you got a mainstream lodge or Grand Lodge of State, like the Grand Lodge of Japan. That's not a sovereign territory, so you have to ask permission to open up a military lodge. Or we go into Iraq, and just like Afghanistan, that's considered sovereign territory. Anybody can open up a lodge. It's just working out those differences. Is it a sovereign territory versus is it not a sovereign territory? Meaning, is there a Grand Lodge already in place there?
And then also a lot of it has to do with like in Korea, and I can really only speak on Korea as far as my experience with military lodges, but it was nothing to find two different lodges from two different Grand Lodges operating on the same military installation. Like I said before, up in Camp Casey, back when I was in 2nd Infantry Division, you had Billy G. Miller number 43 from Oklahoma and Sprig of Acacia number 91 from Washington, which both operated on Camp Casey. You go down to Osan and you'll find, you know, different lodges from different Grand Lodges there. You go further south to like Camp Humphreys or even down to Pusan or the areas down there, and you'll see where different Grand Lodges have lodges on the same installation, and they all get along great. They all attend each other's meetings. They do joint degree work. They do joint fundraisers, joint community service, because to them, we're all Prince Hall Masons. That's what matters. But to specifically answer your question, James, about if you just so happen to become Grand Master of the Prince Hall Grand Lodge in D.C. tomorrow, you wanted to start up a military lodge overseas, pretty much you would need, if it's going to be operating specifically on that installation soil, technically the soil of a United States military installation is American soil. It's completely different from once you step outside that gate. Like if you're stationed in Japan or Korea or Germany or whatever, while you're on that military installation, you are in the United States. But as soon as you step out that gate, you are in whatever country that installation is located in. But really, all you would need is the required number to start a lodge and someone that's willing to do the work over there. It's pretty much that simple. And I mean, I don't think that you necessarily have to ask permission from the Grand Lodges that already have lodges on that installation, because even though they may have lodges located on that installation, they can't technically stake claim to that installation because that installation is not located within their sovereign territory, if that makes sense.
I'm going to add that to my list. Get elected Grand Master and then put military lodge. Got it. Thank you.
Grand Master, then I want to be your special representative from Ohio.
Consider it done. Adding that to the list. Dave, we got any more questions?
Yes. Now this one, do you believe it will be beneficial for our Grand Lodges to have their chairman for the Committee on Foreign Correspondence understand the military setup, and also would it be beneficial to establish some sort of transition process into a gaining jurisdiction if a brother would like to demit? I'm going to turn that over, but for my comments, yes, that needs to be something, because it is, for a lot of brothers out there that's military, it is very difficult when they come back into the United States and now they're trying to demit or even trying to fellowship with another lodge, because they can't even get in contact with the lodge that they demitted from, or paperwork gets lost, or they having some type of difficulties. So yes, that should probably be a little bit more streamlined process, so that when brothers come here from areas overseas, that they will be able to demit very easily versus having some type of hang up with their paperwork.
Yeah, but before y'all answer, I'm really curious to y'all answer, because I had to deal with this as a worshipful master of a stateside lodge. We had a brother demit into my lodge last year from Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Oklahoma. His lodge was in Afghanistan and had went dark or something, and it was an administrative hell. So please give me the answer, please.
I will say this. One of the things that I applaud the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Oklahoma for, and not just the Grand Lodge, but the Grand Chapter of Holy World Arch Masons and the Grand Council and the Grand Commander and all of those, is that they have what they refer to as holding lodges or chapter or council or commander. What their primary purpose is, brothers, because it can be to remain in contact with the lodge that's physically located on the other side of the world. And the way that works is you come back like and once again, I'm speaking on Oklahoma because I actually did this as an Oklahoma Prince Hall Mason. But you come back to the States, you can't get in touch with your lodge that was overseas. You call the Grand Lodge. You explain to them who you are, what lodge you're a member of, and what it is you're trying to do. They look you up in the database. They see that you are definitely a member in their jurisdiction, and they offer you the opportunity to demit into the holding lodge right then and there. And now the holding lodge, it doesn't actually have meetings and all of that stuff. It's basically just an administrative group where they transfer brothers into who are in between duty stations or in between home lodges. So it's a whole lot easier for them to be able to demit in, and keep their paperwork current during the entire thing, because anybody who's been a Prince Hall Mason for longer than a day, they understand the importance of having your paperwork in order when you travel to different jurisdictions. So because of that, and I know Oklahoma isn't the only jurisdiction that does holding lodges, but I'm just speaking once again out of my own experience. That was a very helpful tool for me after I got out of the military. When I moved back home to Mississippi, it was real easy for me to find a lodge to demit to in Mississippi because my membership was with Prince Hall Holding Lodge number 300 under the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Brother Preston Collins on that one. That holding chapter that Oklahoma jurisdiction has, and holding lodges, those things are paramount for Oklahoma and brothers overseas. I've used it on occasion, but like I said, for me, I had an issue many moons ago, back in 2004, before the holding lodges and things came into place, and I didn't have a problem with my blue house or my craft degrees, but I had problems with my consistory and my other York-Rite bodies as well. So it was hard trying to get a hold of the lodges, or not the lodge, but the chapters and the councils and the consistory. But when I contacted the Grand Lodge or the Grand Chapters and everything for Oklahoma, I was able to get all my York-Rite stuff straight. It took me about 10 years to actually get my consistory straight, and what got my consistory straight was me actually PCSing back to Japan. And as soon as I stepped back into Japan, I pulled out my charter, my birth certificate, and I said, hey, I came through Nero Prince back in 2000, and I'm trying to get my stuff straight. And showed them my last dues card and everything. Then they pulled me right back in, and I became current almost immediately. But I will say for the York Rite, they got it down pat. We need to do a better job on the Scottish Rite side.
I'm
All
sorry.
right.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it does seem, and we had the same thing in my lodge where a brother who was a member of, as the question came earlier from a brother from the Prince Albert Lodge, Illinois. Illinois also had a lodge in Baumholder, Germany, which was kind of unique because Baumholder had lodges from Oklahoma, Washington, and Illinois on the same base. And that lodge from Illinois had went dark, but the brother was here and was trying to become back active. So it was it took a while to get him to get everything back in place so that he would be able to demit into my lodge. But it sometimes it becomes a pain. A lot of brothers get discouraged when they feel like they paid their money to become a Mason. They went through all proficiencies to do it. They participated while they were there in their home station, and now they want to continue while they stateside. Now they're having all these difficulties. So it does become discouraging to them. And then coupled with the fact that, as it was stated earlier, you have they don't feel welcome. So you have a young brother who's already a past master or past high priest, past in commander, and now he's coming to a civilian lodge where you have past masters who's been there for 30, 40, 50 years, and they feel like he don't know nothing. And so he's not really welcome in. So you take that not being welcome in, already having issues with paperwork, and a lot of these guys will get discouraged and just stay away. I believe the next question that we're going to have, and this has obviously been a hot topic because we've been getting questions left and right, was about your, like, I guess each one of us experience. What is one positive and what is one negative thing that you would say about Prince Hall affiliated military lodges?
Well, one of the positive things about Prince Hall Military Lodges, from my experience, is we keep talking about it, is the camaraderie there. And that camaraderie, you have a lot of brothers that will stick together, but at the same time, it's a flip to that coin. Some brothers, they'll put their military affiliation above Masonry, and I've seen that in the past too, where for example, you got Army, Air Force, and Marines in the same location. Some brothers you tend to gravitate as far as, principal officers in the lodge as Marines versus putting a mix up of the Air Force and the Army brothers, and then you get discouraged because they're using their military affiliation to level the playing field of the lodge in their favor. And that's one of the negative things that I've saw.
So it's almost like a flip from what you said before about people using the Masonry to promote in the military, but it's like instead of use, wow, I would never thought of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it does happen.
Wow.
One thing that I would say that I've seen as positive, as I think, we keep saying the same thing. Is one thing is the camaraderie and the proficiency level, because from going to I can't remember the name now. The lodge was good. My mind is bad. I won't even try to name where this lodge was located in Afghanistan. Or Salerno. It was in Salerno, Afghanistan, and I went to one of their study halls, and the candidates were really proficient because they had nothing else to do. You go to if you go to your regular job or whatever you're doing that while you're in country, and then once you leave in country, once you do that for the end of the day, now you somewhere studying. So the proficiency level from what I've seen from that lodge in Afghanistan and other lodges that I visited is really high. I guess the one negative thing is the high turnover rate. It's just when you seem like you have a good program going, now your worship master is PCSing, or your senior warden is PCSing. So as soon as you get your momentum going, now you got to bring in a whole new crew to restart all the stuff that you were trying to do. So that would be the only positive and negative thing that I would see.
I want to clarify for those viewers out there that don't have military. I'm going to translate what Brother Gillard just said for you. When he mentioned PCS, and PCS means permanent change of station. That means that you guys station somewhere else. But in prospect, my positive is the same as Dave's was, the camaraderie. I've still got friendships now that I made 16 years ago. I was first raised as a Master Mason. I can think of me go through the lodge that even some of them in years. But if I was to pick up the phone and call one of them right now and tell them that I needed them, they would move hell and high water, as my grandmother used to say, to get to where I was at and come see about me. But as far as the negative, I think the one thing that I want to point out is negative. It comes more from the breadth of brothers in civilian lodges, esoteric lodge. Like, civilians touched on the term popcorn mason. Like, they would refer to some of them as popcorn masons and or microwave masons because of the amount of time it took for us to complete the three craft degrees. And a lot of people don't know about me. You know, Brother Williams was talking about how he went through all 3 degrees in 30 days. Well, guess what? I was initiated, passed, and raised all in the same day. And that's because my mother lodge in Korea was on the verge of fall. Because of the high turn way that I wanted to do it, I wanted to go through the quote unquote traditional way. But and I paid my money, and it was like, you know, on a particular night, came in the next and went through the third. And of course, I didn't know what was going on. All of them were just, you know, 3 different parts of the same thing. Until my district deputy came up to me at the end of the day and explained to me that I was now a Master Mason. But with that being said, after I became a Master Mason, I still had to go back and learn all 3 craft degrees. So, no, I didn't have to take the next degree, but before I could go out and put on a Masonic type of Masonic task, I want to shout out to retired Chief Warrant Officer Ralph Williams. That's the man who taught me everything that I know about the craft degrees. But that's the biggest positive versus negative as far as from my perspective.
All right, and the next question we have is for the jurisdictions that have military affairs committees, do they work with the chairman of the Committee on Foreign Correspondence? And I don't know how many jurisdictions actually have a military affairs committee. I know for Georgia we do have a Veterans Affairs Committee, and from what I've observed, they do not actually work with the CCFCs. The Veterans Affairs Committee really just deals with veterans, helping them with putting their disability claims together, getting them basically getting them tips, tricks, everything about what they actually do as a veteran. It really doesn't deal with too many active duty issues. I could be wrong, but that's just from what I've seen. And our CCFC, Michael A. Delgado, is actually prior military. He was in the Air Force, and many of you probably know Michael Delgado from his travels. And he was in the same consistory as our Sovereign Grand Commander Deary Vaughn. At the time that Sovereign Grand Commander Vaughn was the potentate of, I believe, Aswan Temple, Delgado was his deputy. So if you've been around the military stuff for a long time, you know that our CC is good because he understands basically the military setup.
Well, for me,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
well, from what I've experienced, like the military liaisons and things like that, most of the time, the relationship with the Grand Lodges and the subordinate lodges, there is usually the district deputy is that military liaison. I haven't heard it in the terms that was put in the question. I'd have to bring that up to somebody who's got a little bit more knowledge on that subject than me. I'll follow up on that question and I'll post the answer onto the Prince Hall Think Tank page on Facebook.
Cool. Do military lodges have difficulty with being represented, like at Grand Lodge session or what have you? No.
No, that's never an issue.
Not at all. Not for an issue because they can put in their lead for their representatives. I wasn't trying to cut you off there. But no, they never have a problem with representation at Grand Lodge sessions.
Okay.
I guess another question is, what Grand Lodges currently have military lodges overseas? I think we've hit on quite a few of them already.
From what I know is Oklahoma for sure, Washington, Texas, Maryland, and California that I know of.
I know piggyback off of that, I know that Colorado used used to have at least one lodges at one point in time. And I believe that I read somewhere that Florida has a military lodge somewhere.
Yeah, I saw somebody post on the group that, which kind of surprised me, that Massachusetts had military lodges, as well as my home state of New Jersey, which kind of, not that I don't believe the person, but I just that's new information for me. So I said, wow, it's just definitely widespread practice.
And Georgia, we do have lodges in Germany as well. So those are the ones that, and I was trying to write them down as I could think of them, but those are the ones that I'm currently tracking to actually have military lodges overseas. Um, I think this is that pretty much wraps up all the questions for tonight. If we do scan the page and there is a question that we missed, we'll be addressing that. Want to thank you all for tuning in to tonight's episode of the Prince Hall Think Tank. And for many of you, this subject hit home. As I hit up my good friend and brother, Past Master Keller, inbox me. It hit home for him. It hit home for me too. Even though I was not raised in a military lodge, I've had a lot of experience with visiting military lodges and lodges like Alpha Military Lodge. I'm gonna keep saying it over and over. I love that lodge. They showed me a lot of love when I went to go visit them, starting in 2011 until I left Afghanistan in 2013. So now we have our parting comments, and we want to start with Worshipful Master Preston Collins.
I think we're getting Preston Collins' impersonation of Pootie Tang's greatest hits.
So I guess in the meantime, we're going to move on to Worshipful Master James Morgan.
Hey, first of all, brother Michael, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and enlightening us today, as well as Brother Collins and Brother Gillam. I know, as I said at the beginning, man, this is a real learning experience for me. And although I'm not a military Mason, myself, although I'm an honorary member of a lodge, man, I've had some great interaction with some military brothers, Prince Hall and not, brother, like I said, Marcus James, Worshipful Jeff Holt here in D.C. These are just my own personal heroes. Past Master Cedric Myers here, also Don Bridges and Darrell Dowleen, a whole bunch of brothers in Nathaniel Adams Military Lodge. That have poured into me. So I just want to say to you, not only as a Masonic brother, but also as a citizen of the United States of America, I want to thank you for your service, and all of you actually for your service. Not just you here on the panel, but those watching. And know the Prince Hall Think Tank definitely appreciates the time and the effort, and you putting your lives on the line when you don't have to. You could be doing anything else in the world, but you chose to be to pick up arms and stand up for what you believe in. So. I greatly appreciate that, and I just hope to see everybody back on here, back on next month, and we'll just leave it at that. Thank you. Dave, I think you're muted.
Yeah, thank you for that, Brother Morgan. Next, Brother Collins, you ready to go?
Okay, after a couple of technical difficulties, I'm back. But once again, thank you for having me on the show. Even though I'm a regular columnist here, I still consider it an honor to be amongst you gentlemen, and I appreciate you having me again. Chief Williams, thank you not only for your service, but thank you for your time. And to all of our service members, whether you're in garrison or in a combat zone, whether you're CONUS or OCONUS, all around the world, you are made of the Eastern Star or you're not Masonically affiliated at all. Me and my family, we thank you for. We'll see you next month. That's all I got, Dave.
Dave, I think you were muted.
Next we have our guest, Brother Williams.
Thank you again to the panel of Prince Hall Think Tank for having me on your show this week or this month. Before I go, I want to make sure I get this out so none of the brothers in the different branches of service say I'm diming them out. I don't have no beef with any brother from any branch of the service. I'm just stating the facts of some issues that went along in the past. I love all branches of the service. I love all my brothers. Prince Hall, Masonic, or mainstream, Grand Lodge Estate. Just want to thank everybody who's in the military like myself for doing what we do, and we'd like to thank all of you guys for supporting us in our actions when we take up arms for the defense of our nation. And I was asked earlier about my book. Yes, my book is coming out. It should be sometime in mid to late September. I'm trying to get it out earlier, but right now it's being edited. Once it gets back being edited, it will be in the hands of those who are wanting it. The title of my book is The Science of Light, an in-depth exploration of the Masonic wisdom, the Masonic degrees and its hidden wisdom. My first volume is over there, The Entered Apprentice. It's very esoteric, and some of the subject matter, people may be like, what the heck is this dude talking about? But either way it goes, you're gonna enjoy it. Either you're gonna like it, love it, or hate it. Just but it's just some different reading material of different from what we see on a regular basis. And I hope you guys enjoy it when it comes out.
Well, brother Michael, just remember my birthday is September 19th. So just letting you know, just letting you know, just to drop that, let you do with that what you will.
I might let you get a preview for it then.
Thank you, sir.
And once again, thank you all for tuning in. One item that I wrote down so I wouldn't forget it, and I believe Brother Williams touched on it earlier about military lodges, is the diversity inside of the Prince Hall military lodges. It is not uncommon to see Puerto Rican, white, Mexican, almost every race inside of a military lodge, and it's not going to seem any different. And it's the same thing. Maybe it's the same concept with the military. A lot you usually serve with people from different races, so it's naturally common to see those same races inside of inside your lodge meeting. So that's one thing I definitely like to applaud, or I think is a plus for military lodges, is the diversity. This topic, as I stated earlier, it hit home for a lot of us. It really means a lot. And we have some of our men doing great things, some men and women doing great things on the front lines. Just as we have the Prince Hall affiliated military lodges, you have those Prince Hall affiliated military chapters as well. So we have a lot of our sisters that are in active combat zones, still doing their jobs, still attending their OAS meetings, and we thank you for your service. Also, as you know, I'm the executive director of the Columbus Black History Museum and Archives, and I want to thank you all for your support of this museum. If you haven't, I always try to put out stuff on our museum Facebook page. So if you're on Facebook, just Google, just put into your search engine, Columbus Black History Museum. You'll see our page, and I try to put different things up about Black history of the Chattahoochee Valley. And lastly, for next month's show, this is going to be one of my personal favorites, along with Worshipful Master Morgan. We're going to talk. We're going to talk about the connection between Prince Hall Masonry and the AME Church. And in doing so, with the early research that we have done, the first Worshipful Master of my lodge, and I believe Brother Morgan's great grandfather, actually had beef with each other.
Yeah.
They argued publicly. Now, we ain't going to say that the first Worshipful Master of my lodge actually won the argument. We're going to leave that part out. But you're going to learn about a lot of great things regarding Prince Hall Masonry and the AME Church. So definitely tune in And as always, feel free to hit us up with your questions, comments, concerns, and feel free to drop a line to I can't close the show out without mentioning this. Feel free to drop a line to the founder of the Prince Hall think tank, Antonio Caffey, and thank him for coming up with the idea to start this forum. So with that, you all have a blessed night, and to all our service members, thanks again for your service.